to revenge with Lyra.
At 3 a.m., my sister quietly turned the key in my desk drawer, the one I kept locked for a reason. I wasn't there to hear it. I wasn't there to see her fingers pull out the envelope. But I would feel the impact hours later. By morning, $11,000 was gone. Not stolen in the shadows by a stranger, but spent in the daylight on a first-class ticket to Japan. And not just for herself. She brought along our cousin, too. Matching luggage, designer clothes, new electronics. Her Instagram lit up before I even had time to breathe. 7 days later, she came back, smiling, sunburned, and wrapped in expensive gifts. And when I confronted her in the living room, my father didn't even let me finish. "Stop pretending," he said sharply, like I was insulting his intelligence. "She would never touch your money. She's your sister." The words made my throat tighten, because the truth wasn't in my head, it was in black and white. The receipts, the timestamps, the camera footage from the hotel lobby. But I didn't argue. Not that day. Instead, I sat down on the couch, opened my laptop, and let them keep talking. Let them call me dramatic. Let them call me bitter. Because while they dismissed me, they didn't realize one thing. The card she used wasn't mine. It was ours. Both our names on it. Both our credit history tied to it. And that meant when she racked up thousands on that trip, she didn't just touch my life. She put hers directly in my hands. I glanced at her over my father's shoulder. She was unwrapping another luxury scarf like it was nothing. And I smiled. Not because I was okay with what she did. Not because I'd forgiven her. But because I already knew exactly how I was going to make her pay. And she would watch it happen, helpless, as everything she thought was hers disappeared, one swipe at a time. If this ever happened to you, say same in the comments. The difference between revenge and justice? Revenge is loud. Justice is quiet. And mine had already begun. She thought she was untouchable. That was her first mistake. I didn't confront her again after that day. I didn't cry, yell, or send long texts explaining how badly she'd crossed the line. Instead, I waited. Watched. The credit card company was very interested in hearing my concerns. Especially when I mentioned the exact dates, locations, and purchase records, all signed electronically in her name, as well as mine. It wasn't theft in the legal sense. It was shared debt. And debt is a slow, patient weapon when you know how to wield it. The first step? I froze the account. No warning. 1 minute she was at the mall checkout, grinning with her arms full of shopping bags. The next, she was holding a declined card in front of a line of impatient customers. She called me. I didn't answer. The second step? I requested a full transaction review, which, per policy, temporarily lowered our shared credit limit until investigation completion. That meant every monthly bill she relied on, streaming subscriptions, her gym membership, even the luxury spa she bragged about, started bouncing. 3 weeks in, her tone shifted. From smug to defensive. From defensive to desperate. Dad called, too. "Fix this. You're ruining her life." But I remembered standing in that same living room, my $11,000 gone, and him saying, "Stop pretending." I remembered the way she smirked over her shopping bags like my pain was an inconvenience. So I smiled and told him, "I'm just following the bank's process. You wouldn't want me to lie to them, would you?" The silence on the other end was almost sweet. Then came the third step. And this one? It wasn't financial. It was social. I sent the bank's written notice, the one listing her spending irregularities, to the family group chat. No caption. No explanation. Her vacation photos used to get hundreds of likes. Now, every post was met with cold quiet. And still, she had no idea I wasn't done. Because this wasn't about getting my $11,000 back anymore. This was about making sure she never forgot what she did every single time she tried to buy her way into feeling above me again. And my final move would be permanent. Permanent is a heavy word. It doesn't mean petty revenge or a few weeks of inconvenience. It means altering something so deeply that it can never go back to the way it was. And in her case, it meant her name. See, my sister loved credit. Not cash, credit. It made her feel powerful to hand over a sleek card with her name embossed in gold. She'd swipe it for dinners, designer clothes, and vacations she couldn't afford, then smooth-talk her way into extensions and payment delays. But the bank's investigation had left a trail, one she hadn't considered. A flagged account, an official notice of joint misuse, and a credit utilization ratio that now sat at 94%. That number alone was like poison to her future plans. I made sure of it. While she was off pouting about the family betrayal, I filed a request to formally dissolve our shared account, citing irrevocable trust breach. The banker glanced at the file, at the printed receipts, and signed off without blinking. In one keystroke, her name was severed from my account. Then I took it a step further. Using the very same flagged transactions, I applied for a fraud protection alert on her credit report. Every lender, landlord, and loan officer who so much as typed her name into their system would see it. That was the permanent part. Not just the money. Not just the embarrassment. The shadow that would follow her every time she tried to borrow for the rest of her life. 2 weeks later, I heard from a mutual cousin. She got denied for a new apartment. Said her credit's weird now. Do you know anything? I just laughed softly and said, we all have to live with the choices we make. Dad stopped calling after that. Mom tried once, but I didn't pick up. It wasn't about cutting them off entirely. It was about letting them sit in the silence they'd left me in when I begged them to believe me. And still the final, most public part of my plan hadn't even begun. Because sometimes, the best revenge is delivered with an audience. The opportunity came faster than I expected. A month later, our cousin Lena got engaged. She was the type who loved to post every glittery detail online. The proposal, the ring, the she said yes hashtags. Naturally, there was going to be an engagement party. Naturally, my sister would be there. And naturally, I RSVP'd. I arrived early. Not to mingle, but to prepare. Because on the big screen in the rented banquet hall, Lena had planned to run a slideshow of family memories before dinner. And guess who she'd asked to help organize the photos?
Me.
I nodded, smiled, and promised I'd make it beautiful. She had no idea what else I'd make it. The slideshow started as expected, baby pictures, awkward middle school photos, beach vacations. Then, with a perfectly timed click, the tone shifted. There she was, my sister, smiling in first-class seats, champagne flute in hand. The caption? Tokyo arrival, on stolen money. The next slide? Her in a luxury store, handing over a platinum card. The receipt underneath showed my name in the primary account holder field. A ripple went through the room. Forks paused. Glasses froze midair. I kept my expression polite, like I was just as surprised as everyone else. The final slide? A copy of the fraud alert letter from the credit bureau, bold and official. Her name was impossible to miss. She shot up from her chair so fast it nearly toppled. Her eyes were wild, her voice sharp. You think this is funny? I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, funny?
No.
Necessary? Absolutely. The silence after that was deafening. Somewhere in the back, someone muttered, she really did that? Someone else whispered, $11,000. Lena, bless her, turned off the slideshow and mumbled something about moving on to dinner. But the damage was done. She couldn't erase it from their minds, or the fact that, for the rest of the night, not a single person sat beside my sister. And I wasn't even finished. The whispers didn't stop after that night. By the next morning, the family group chat had gone silent, except for one message. It was from my father. You've embarrassed your sister. Fix this. I stared at it for a long time. Embarrassed her? I was the one who had my savings stolen. I was the one who was told to stop pretending by the same man now defending her. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a deep breath and logged into my bank account. Because my sister hadn't just used the $11,000. She'd maxed the card out. And now she was about to learn what happens when you build your little fantasy on someone else's name. I contacted the fraud department, gave them every screenshot, every receipt, and most importantly, the travel itinerary in her own email. They froze the account instantly. But that was just the start. Next, I called my insurance company. Because the moment the fraud case was processed, my sister's precious trip purchases, every handbag, every piece of jewelry, every souvenir she brought home to brag about, would be reclassified as stolen goods. And by law, stolen goods have to be returned. 3 days later, I got the notification. The account reversal was approved. $11,000 back to me. And my sister's name now sat proudly in the active fraud investigation column. That same afternoon, a courier knocked on her door. Witnesses say she stood there in her pajamas as the man calmly handed her the order. Return everything. The handbags. The gifts. Even the $1,200 silk kimono she'd worn for her welcome home photo shoot. Neighbors watched from their porches as she stuffed boxes into the back of a truck. Someone even filmed it, and yes, it made it to Facebook. My father didn't text me again, but I know he saw it, because later that night, my phone lit up with a missed call from my cousin Lena. When I answered, she didn't even say hello. She just whispered, "You do realize she's not going to recover from this, right?" I smiled to myself. That's the point. 2 days passed before my sister dared to show her face again. I was at a cafe downtown when I saw her through the window, storming across the street, sunglasses on despite the cloudy sky. She walked straight to my table and dropped into the chair opposite me. "You've destroyed my life," she hissed. Her voice was shaking, but not from sadness. From rage. "You could have just asked for the money back." I set my coffee cup down slowly. "You could have just not stolen it." Her jaw clenched, but I noticed her nails. Perfectly manicured. I noticed the designer shoes. Even after losing everything, she still found ways to flaunt what she thought was power. "You think people don't see what you've done?" she spat. I leaned in. "Oh, they've seen. Trust me, they've really seen." That was when she realized this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about her reputation. Because over the last week, I hadn't just let the investigation play out. I'd made sure every single person who once gossiped behind my back knew the truth, in the clearest, most documented form possible. Her old coworkers forwarded the fraud report. Our extended family, group email with screenshots. The community page she used to brag on, a very factual post detailing what happens when trust is broken. No names mentioned, of course. But everyone knew. She pulled off her sunglasses, and for the first time in my life, I saw my sister's eyes genuinely water. "Please," she whispered. "Just stop." I let the silence hang between us for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then I stood. "You didn't stop when you opened that drawer," I said quietly. "You didn't stop when you swiped the card." I leaned close enough that she could hear every word. "You don't get to ask me for mercy now." As I walked away, I glanced back just once. She was still sitting there, staring at nothing. The woman who once thought she could take from me without consequence, now left holding nothing at all. And yet, my plan wasn't finished. Not even close. Because in 3 days, her perfect little future was about to vanish. 2. 3 days later, the city courthouse was busier than usual. Lawyers in press suits, security guards pacing at the doors, cameras flashing for a case that had nothing to do with me, or so my sister thought. She didn't know I'd be there. She didn't know I'd arranged for a hearing she had to attend. The envelope had arrived at her apartment 2 mornings prior, a formal summons from the bank's fraud division. What she didn't expect was that it wasn't just about paying back the money. It was about the fact that she had used my business credit card, a card tied to contracts, vendors, and tax filings. In the eyes of the court, this wasn't family drama. This was criminal misappropriation. I arrived early, sitting in the back row. My attorney nodded at me, calm, confident. When the bailiff called her name, she walked in wearing a stiff smile, like she still believed she could charm her way out of this. But when she saw me, that smile cracked. The clerk read out the evidence, bank statements, timestamps, the flight booking, the luxury purchases. Then, the moment that shifted the entire room, the video. Because the new security camera I'd installed 6 months ago, it caught everything. From the moment she used the key to the exact second she removed the card from my drawer. Crystal clear. No shadows to hide behind. Her lawyer whispered frantically to her, but I could see the fight leaving her shoulders. And when the judge spoke, his tone was cold. This is not a matter of sibling dispute. This is theft with documented intent. The words hit harder than I expected, because they weren't just for her. They were a validation for me, for every time I'd been told to let it go or keep the peace.
The court recessed.
She avoided my eyes, shoving papers into her bag with trembling hands. Outside, a reporter tried to get her comment. She pushed past them, her face red. But she didn't see me step into the sunlight, watching her leave. Not yet. Because the final step wasn't about courtrooms or bank accounts. It was about stripping away the one thing she valued more than money. And tomorrow morning, that part of the plan would unfold exactly as I intended. The next morning, just before sunrise, I parked across the street from the neighborhood club she practically lived in. This place was her temple. Weekly brunches, poolside selfies, networking accidents with people who had more money than sense. I'd been here only once before as her guest.
But now?
I wasn't walking in as her tag-along sibling. I was walking in as the new owner of her membership account. The process had been simple. Her entire club fee had been paid for with my card. Evidence of fraud gave me the legal right to transfer every benefit tied to that account. And the club manager, a man with an impressive mustache and a clear dislike for drama, was happy to oblige. At 7:14 a.m., I was sipping coffee on the balcony when she arrived. Expensive sunglasses, hair styled for photos, and that trademark, I run this place strut. She didn't notice me at first, but she noticed the security guard and the way he blocked her path. "Ma'am, your membership is no longer valid." Her laugh was sharp. "Check again." "I did," he replied, gesturing toward me. "It's under their name now." She turned. Our eyes met. I didn't say a word, just lifted my coffee in a small toast. Her face, confusion, then realization, then the red flush of humiliation, played out like a silent film. Phones were already up. People were whispering. She stormed off without another word. And just like that, the carefully curated world she'd built, the one she used to flaunt her status and belittle me, crumbled. I finished my coffee, handed the empty cup to a passing waiter, and walked away. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need her to admit what she'd done. Because every time she tried to get back into this club, she'd be reminded, in the